Okay, homework is due this afternoon at 5 o'clock. If you have not heard any problem on that set referring or using buoyant force is not required to be turned in. I didn't get to it. So at 5, 6 o'clock, turn it in, that's fine. Those problems are gonna be part of a new problem set I'm gonna put out this afternoon. So get ready for that.
The problem set is gonna be really big.
Could be, I haven't decided. So one of the things that we're doing this week is we need to discuss buoyant force. When you had, oh, let me turn that down. Iris, manual, menu, close, focus. Okay. There we go. Make sure the camera, that. All right, good. So for the buoyant force, if, as an analogy, if you had a bucket on top of the water, the only force that you feel pulling down is mass times gravity. It's pulling the bucket down. Basically, you're trying to push it back up, and that's fine. When you put this thing in water, that's not really to scale, but the mg, let's think it like that, is counteracted by some other force, and this is the buoyant force. And as you get this thing completely underwater, that buoyant force maxes out. And what happens to be a rather easy job of keeping the bucket underwater eventually becomes a rather difficult job, because the force pushing it back up is at its greatest. Now really what's happening is it is the collective force of the fluid around it trying to push the foreign object out. So when it's down here, this water is just sitting here basically trying to reoccupy the area that, or volume that's been displaced. And so if you've ever had, I mean, when I was a kid, we had a pool. So what we did, obviously, is we used to play Submarine Man, and we would take the bucket, keep air in it, pull it underneath, which was rather difficult, set it up under the stairs getting out of the pool, and then we'd go dive underneath, put our head in the bucket, and then we could breathe the air 3 feet underwater. Now granted, you had to keep changing the air because of, I mean, carbon dioxide buildup, but we understood at the time that it required a certain amount of force to pull down, and that the name of that force is the buoyant force. The buoyant force is F sub B, and it is rho VG. Now, this rho is the density of fluid displaced. And then V is the volume of fluid displaced. And G is just your normal gravity. And sometimes I write V as V sub D. The volume of the fluid displaced. But that rho, you could also write it as a D. These two aren't truly necessary as long as you explain it. But those are the values that, or those are the meanings that are associated with those symbols. And just so I know, Dr. Eschenberg is going to do a very, very devious thing at the moment. Oh, don't worry, you're in the room. People I'm worried about aren't. All right, put your name and student ID, put your date at the top. Name, student ID, date at the top. I'll tell you what the student ID is. Name, student ID, date at the top. What I'm looking for is, now, here's the deal. I don't punish people for not going to class. I really don't. It's a free country. You're an adult. I do reward those that do. So, the other thing that I'm looking for, probably the person who has done this and is currently watching the video will then understand what's going on. I'm going to take this list of people who physically signed it and compare it, and these guys too. Nothing wrong with signing this, but I'm going to compare it to the list on Top Hat. Because I know one of you guys texted the number to your friends who aren't here. Oh yeah.
They could just write their friend's name.
They could. I mean, if they think ahead that much.